Hey guys, BJ and Game Day here. As usual, you got Joshy, you got Brent, back to give you another round review, round 19. How'd you go last week, bud?
Mate, not too bad. 978, just failed to crack the ton. It was just and ahhing all week. Obviously, like a lot of people had Jared Croker, which sort of hurt. But no one really went too big last week. None of the usual suspects anyway. There was a fair few good scores. But it was just really hard to put that 12 or 1300 point score together. What about yourself, mate?
Yeah, not too great. 940 or something. I stopped looking after I went turbo as captain.
Yeah.
I was sick, so
yeah.
Wasn't great. Dropped back maybe 500 odd spots, so
Okay.
around 3,000 overall. Which isn't great, but still just loitering around that 3,000 sort of zone.
Mate, speaking of captains, we'll go through the captain choice a little bit later. We've broken down the captains a little bit this week of what we've had for the whole season, just to look at some points in that and how much of a difference it actually does make to your ranking. But yeah, mate. Look, obviously a few big stories last week. That probably the biggest one was Jared Croker going down injured. He'll be gone for the rest of the season. Pretty hard when you sort of. If you do chase points or anything like that, scored 138 the week before and then got upgraded to a 5, but whatever. It's just like the week where Ponga went down and scored a 5. Couple of interesting players there last week. We've got a few guys that are coming back, starting to hit form at this time of the season, and low percentage players, low percentage ownership players. Blokes like Jared Hayne, Josh Hodgson, those guys are sort of starting to fight. Hopper's been pulled back to fullback now. I sort of said it all year last year and a lot of this year is he actually looks their most dangerous player for the Bulldogs is Hopewadi, and obviously they had a bit of a problem there when you had Mbai who to put at fullback. They gave Mbai the role, but Hopper looks great there. Had a massive amount of offloads last week. I think it was 40 points of offloads. So
10 offloads,
maybe one to look at as a pod coming in.
Yeah, and I think good opportunity this week with obviously Croker. If you got Croker, he's out for the season now, so this would be a good chance to bring in a bit of a pod. This is where he'll start to get a bit of that pod action. People will be looking at guys like Hopper, maybe guys like Fergo, guys like potentially Maro. Not Rapana. Fucking Rapana. Scores 2 tries, more the tries he scored the whole time. I owned him before he got injured. But yeah, guys like Rapana. And he did look good on the weekend, I must admit. He was doing that. He was floating off his wing and running sort of fullback lines, which he wasn't doing before.
Earlier in the season.
Now that Jackie Whiten isn't there, it looks like he's changed his role.
I mean, let's look at that with the Raiders. Yeah. Obviously, they're missing Jack Whiten. Yeah. Croker's gone down injured now. They're going to have a shuffle of the back line.
Caesar's done a hemi.
Has he?
Yeah, training, he did a hemi.
Oh, okay. Hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah.
I mean, they've lost a lot of attacking options. It may be up to Rapana to step up and... I mean, that was probably one of my tips for the rest of the season after seeing him on the weekend. I reckon he'll average sort of 70, 75 coming home. I think he'll have a few ton scores. So maybe a pod for those looking at home to get rid of Croker and jump on him.
Yeah, and I think, they got Abbey at fullback. So, I mean, I think he'll still stay on the wing. But as I said, I think he'll tend to float in and run those fullback lines now that they're missing that genuine fullback in Whiten.
Yeah, no, fair enough. What else did you see last week, mate?
Plenty of shit scores from sort of guys you'd expect to go well.
Yeah.
The return, obviously, Cook has well and truly established himself, as we've been pretty vocal about all season. A few big outs in that Roosters game sort of hurt a couple of people, especially playing the Titans. You would have liked a couple of those Tedesco's and Mitchells to be playing that game, which was a bit sucked in Supercoach if you had them.
It sort of hurt towards the end of the week as well because it was the last game. I think it definitely caught me off guard, especially Latrell. I think there was a lot of whispers around that Teddy was going to miss out, so could sort of prepare for that. But I didn't realise Latrell was going to miss out, and I got caught with a Kurt Mann AE of 20. So
and even the Melbourne game was they had 5 guys out. They had their whole Origin campaign out. They had Munster, Adokar, Kafusi. So Will Chambers, they all had a week off. So I guess everyone now can prepare for the run home. Well, truly, those Origin boys have had the week off now that they needed, and this is where you have to really fine tune your team for that run home. That being said, there's probably not a heap of trades out there for the majority of people. I know yourself would be running low. I'm running pretty low as well. So you've got to make them count from here, mate.
Oh, definitely,
And,
definitely.
one thing I have noticed though is teams this year tend to be like more so in the past. We've got guys that have got a really strong sort of 18 to 20 plus players, like quite easily. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like every team is now struggling to try and pick those 4 reserves.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was the money change. Like obviously the salary cap changed this year, but I've looked at my team and I think I've got 16 players plus 500. Yeah. And then I've got about another 6 or 7 players that are sitting sort of between 4 and 500. So it's not dire straits really. You know, it's pretty easy to pick a team week in, week out. You've just got to sort of avoid those injuries and hope you don't leave someone on the pine that scores a ton or 80 plus.
And I think if you are running low on trades, it's not as big of an issue because you do have that depth.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you said, it'll just be a matter of making sure you pick the right 17. But yeah, mate, it's gonna be a really interesting run home. I think a lot of teams, as you'd mentioned earlier, are looking a little bit similar as well. So as I said, it'll be really interesting to see where people go with Croker this week if you had him.
Speaking of that, we've noted down a few pods this week. So obviously we recapped the pods last week that we talked about earlier in the season. We just thought we'd chuck up a few for the run home. Obviously, this is the time of the season where you need something different. It's just like your footy tipping comps where you might take the upset here or there. Usually you get egg on your face and it goes the wrong way, but you know, hopefully we can lead you in the right direction. Mate, the first one I want to talk about, I'm liking Cody Walker with the Rabbits form. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think to be fair, he's been one of the most dangerous sort of players all year, to be fair. Like every game he sort of had some attacking stats in him, bar a couple from memory.
Yep.
I'm not entirely sure what their run home is like, but if South put points on, he's usually involved in it. There's a really good, I guess, on that as well. There seems to be, as much as I'm not his biggest fan, Alex Johnson seems to be a real linchpin as well in what they do. First of all, for that pace, but he always seems to be just that guy on the outside that can go himself or give the ball that sets it up. So I think a couple of guys there are really worth a look, depending on their run home. But yeah, absolutely, mate. He's dangerous, and he gets a bit of that white line fever. He'll take the ball himself.
Yeah,
which is awesome for Supercoach. So
definitely.
What about you? You got someone else you think?
Mate, one bloke I was looking at is from the Knights, from your boys. Coming back after suspension is Lachlan Fitzgibbon. Now, an issue this week with him being named on the bench, so he might not be a buy this week. But what I love is where the Knights are getting back to. They're getting back to that team that they started the year with, where they were successful. Mitchell Pearce is coming back now. You never know how guys come back from injury, whether they're actually ready, they've come back too early, who knows. But if Pearce is there, the delivery that Fitzgibbon was getting from Kalen Ponga was phenomenal. And Ponga's due back in the next week or so as well. So, look, I think this week will be about fitness and Fitzgibbon just doing, I guess, his penance and staying on the bench for a week. I think he will replace Mitch Barnett next week and start on that left edge. Coincide that with Kalen Ponga coming back. Mitchell Pearce might find a little bit of form as well. I just think Lachlan Fitzgibbon could be a back rower. What we saw earlier in the season, where he throws in a few 90s or 100 pluses. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think once Kalen gets back, it's only going to help that cause.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, and that's another one. I guess Kalen will be back. Missing the Titans game, which again sucks if you held him. He obviously optimally would have rather had him, but I traded him. I now have my doubts just because of the explosive sort of player he is off that step.
Yep.
I can't fancy, the risk of that Hemi going again. Yeah. He's already burned me once and twice when I didn't play him when he turned up. I've just had to jump off because it's too important. But he should be back next week. So
now we haven't exactly talked about trades yet this week, purely because we're not too sure whether we make any or not. We're all running low out there. With the Jared Croker going down last week, I'm actually going to bring in Moses Mbai this week.
Okay.
Now, I think Moses,
can you pick him in the centre?
I'm moving Kurt Mann from halfback into the centres.
Oh, okay.
And Moses has got dual position with the halfback, fullback. So, via obviously that.
Have you got Walker in 5'8" or is it?
Yeah, I've got Walker
you got
in
Munster
5'8".
as well?
No, I've got Widdop now.
Did you get off Munster?
I got off Munster about, I think, just after the England test.
Okay.
So I jumped off Munster there just from Origin. I brought in Widdop. But yeah, I just think Mbai, what I love about, again, the Tigers, they started off the season well based on their defence. they haven't really shown much in attack. But I'm really liking Robbie Farah back there. Robbie Farah and Benji have done really, really well together. You saw the emotion between them on the weekend in the game. They really enjoyed playing together. I like the fact that Josh Reynolds is out, and there's no doubt there that he'll be back to maybe take a utility spot. I'm hoping we can see Robbie finish out the season playing some 80-minute games, because I think all that's going to happen there is that Moses Mbite is going to benefit from it. I really think he's just got that dynamic ability that a lot of those guys do at fullback. He probably doesn't get the credit like a lot of the other guys just because he's so far down the pecking order in what people think. But I reckon he can probably throw in a good scores. And again, just that sneaky pod. We're all sort of after it. I'm hoping I can climb the ladder a little bit. He's got some solid scores on the board. Scored 79 last week. Didn't really get involved too much and still managed to get that on the board. So, yeah.
No, I like it. Definitely a bit of a pod there.
Yep.
I guess I will touch on Robbie Farah as well. I've just looked up his last 4 scores, one of which he was still, or 2 of which he was still at South. So he's gone 84, 64, 92, 97. So any doubts anyone had over Farah, I think would be well and truly out the door. But I think given that Smith and Cook, for any serious super coaches, you can't really get away from those guys. And that's the problem with someone like Joshy Hodgson, is you've got to off someone like a Cook or a Smith, and I don't think there's going to be enough value there to waste a trade, or it's not a good enough pod, I don't think.
It's a tough thing we've talked about right from the start of the season with those 2 positions. There's hooker with those guys, and then there's fullback. You've got your Teddies, your Turbos, your Pongers, your RTSs. You can't fit everyone in, so you've just sort of got to get lucky with who you do. Now, with how good Cook's gone throughout the season, you really can't avoid having him. Yeah. And in the past 6 or 8 weeks, Cam Smith's been the best Supercoach player on the park again. Absolutely. So, do you really want to burn a trade to go 2 guys that, obviously Hodgson coming back from an ACL, how long's his fitness going to last? Or Farah, how long before the Farah effect takes place and he starts to crash,
Yeah, and the Raiders are a bit of a tough run home too, and Farah, they're still taking a bit of a risk there that you've maybe chasing some points, but yeah, mate. I think another guy I'll probably have a really close look at that we already touched on, which probably he's not going to be a pod, but I just think because of his pedigree and he was one of the best players in Origin, with Cameron Munster.
Yeah.
I guess the problem for me is trying to fit him in. Got Teddy and Turbo at the back.
Yep.
And I think I got Walker and Widdop in the 5'8", so I have to make some sort of hard decision there. I'm not... Widdop, I don't know, I'll have to look at the Dragons' run. I'm not convinced on Widdop. He hasn't been too good since he got picked up for the buys, so...
Can we talk about the bleached hair last week?
Oh, that's why he got his teeth knocked out.
Holy shit.
You see the teeth? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't...
Fuck, the choppers are gone.
Yeah, gone. That's what you get.
I saw on the NRL physio that he said he's had running repairs, but an injury like that won't keep you out. They just repair it in the off-season better. So, but yeah, mate, the bleached hair, it's like the old days when you wore the white boots.
Yeah.
Everyone else wearing black boots, you came on with the white boots and you had the worst game in the world. Yeah. It's got to be the same for bleached hair. I don't know what he was thinking. But
I don't know if it was just trying to kick him out of some bad form, or just change something up, or his missus is a hairdresser. I don't know. What's doing?
Oh look, mate, I'm going to stick with him. I know you're obviously talking about Munster. I went from Munster to Widdop. The frustrating part about Munster is, when he gets stuck in that 6 role and they don't go to him, he can score really, really low. I had him captain there one week, a few weeks ago. I think he scored 14 or 17 or something. So that was the most frustrating part for me. I decided to offload him. I'm going to stick with Widdop to the end. The thing I love about Widdop is that, he does kick those goals and he can turn it on. His form just comes out of nowhere. So I'm hoping that come in the last sort of 6 weeks, he can reproduce a little bit of that.
Yeah, and it is hard now, because you really have to start looking at runs home for teams, and whether it is worth bringing someone in, like depending on who they have for the run home. So, just looking at South run home, they'll play Tigers this week, Para the week after, but then they play Melbourne, Chooks and Brisbane the 3 weeks after that.
It's a tough last 3 games, but
so things like that, I think you've got to start having a bit of a think about if you're going to bring guys in from these teams. So.
Yeah. One other one I wanted to touch on was for the Melbourne Storm, another Queensland player in Felice Kafusi. Now, Last year he had a blinder of a year. Obviously outside Cooper Cronk, hit holes galore, scored tries galore. Hasn't had the same success this year with, I guess, the inconsistency in the Melbourne halves. But what I liked was what I saw in Origin. He really sort of stepped up, played a lot of minutes, picked some gaps, picked some holes, really probed with the defence. His scores aren't too bad either. Like, you look sort of back, you know, he's got a few 80s in there, a few 70s. Again, like Lachlan Fitzgibbon, I reckon if you're looking for sort of a pod in that back row, obviously we've all got blokes like Tamalolo, Trebojevic. Most people have got Reece Martin, who's absolutely killed it. But yeah, if you sort of, like, I've got Joe Stimson on the bench and he's been dropped this week. You know, while I've only got 3 trades left, if I had a few more, that may be a trade that I look at.
Yeah, my only concern with him, I totally agree. I think he's emerged as one of the best young players in the comp since last year and has been fairly consistent. The only problem is he's not that kind of back rower that's going to do you 15, 20 truck ups. He's only going to, like, you know, it's about the quality for him, not the quantity. And same with his defence, and I guess that's the problem. But yeah, I totally agree. He's probably a good pod. One thing I would sort of say, and I think it's been awesome, has been the emergence of all these young back rowers. In the last sort of year. And
a lot of guys,
You look at like Kafusi, guys like Kikau, who's
been huge.
Arguably one of the best back rowers in the comp, I reckon, on that edge. Raymond for Taylor Mariner, Joey Tapane, whatever you want to...
Tapane. No, hang on. Big Teddy.
It's Tapane.
Send it again. Tapane.
He did the syllable enunciation for you. Tapane.
Appreciate it, mate.
And even guys like Reece Martin, TPJ,
Jaden Sewer.
It's been good. So.
Angus Crichton's coming through. There's a lot of young back rowers really coming in as that next generation.
And there'd be a few we've probably forgotten, to be fair. So it's been good. It'll be good to see. These guys are going to be the superstars of the next few years. And some of these boys are like big, sort of fast things, so they're quite devastating. So,
well, see, that's what I love about
Lachlan Fitzgibbon, even not that same sort of build, but some of these guys are going to be. It's going to be good watching.
That's what I like watching about Reece Martin for the Dogs. Is he's probably not that big build that those other guys are, but God, he's good on his feet, and he looks like he's got a really, really good football brain. I've got to be honest, I don't know where he came from.
He's a PNG boy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he grew up there or whatever, but.
It's just awesome to see.
Up, didn't he?
So. I mean, had a massive super coach week a couple of weeks ago against the Raiders. How they lost that game, I've got no idea. But kicks goals, offloads, hits up, plays 80 minutes.
They're calling him God too.
He is the new Corey Parker. He really is. And I think, depending on whether he stays with the Dog, which team he goes to, whether they can fix their salary cap bullshit, mate, he's probably going to be one of the first picked in my team next year.
Yeah, mate. And as I said, I think it's really good to see this because it will bring some variety into these Supercoach teams. Because now you're not necessarily going to be going those sort of high work rate guys as much because you've got these guys that are just so devastating, even if they're only playing 60 minutes, 50 minutes. Especially guys like TPJ. I love seeing him on the edge. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Definitely. A few things we wanted to touch on, we talked about earlier, was the captain's side of things. Now, this is where I'm going to have my little bit of a bitch in a moment, is that I've made the worst frigging captain choices all year. What I did was today, I actually looked at mine and Brent's captain choices throughout the year. My average captain scores 54 a week. And it's just not good enough. It's really hard. And that's including earlier in the year I had Turbo when he scored 158. There's been 17s, there's been 14s, there's been just shit scores. I didn't have Ponga that week, which is a nice little thing, but overall for the season, you've scored about 250 more points before double up. So you've scored about 500 more points in captain choices. So, I mean, that's huge. If I had that extra 500 points, I think instead of being 6,200, I'd be up to about 2,000, So imagine if in the top sort of 600 or 700, all of a sudden you're in the top 40 or 50 maybe. I'm not too sure of the points, but, it's a big, big difference.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. And that's going to be the difference for the run home as well. I mean, the same thing for me. If I add 500 points to my score, you round that 500
Yeah.
sort of overall ranking. So, yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be really important now.
How do you pick a captain? What do you look at?
I think these days it's more about that sort of attacking threat. I know Fafita had a bit of form there and whatever, but I'm tending to look at the matchups for the week, who are certain teams playing, and you're just sort of hoping that they're going to tear them apart, basically. I think now though, given what's happened, Cook looks like he's going to be one that is almost like a set and forget.
Yeah.
Just because he's just been so solid every week.
And in a South team that's winning and is top of the ladder, it's fair enough.
Especially maybe the next couple of weeks. But, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just looking at that. Where are the higher scoring is this team going to run over this team sort of thing more than anything?
Yeah.
I don't tend to look at,
Well, see, that's what I did at the
start
of the season.
I don't look at this player's on this edge.
Yeah.
They're defending against this guy on this edge. Maybe if they've called in a centre, a team's called in a centre that hasn't had too many starts. I know you can get some stats on where teams leak the most points, which sides of the fields, but I don't go into that sort of depth. I just sort of go, oh yeah, that sounds about good.
Also, at the start of the year, I think the first 5 or 6 weeks, I just picked the best player, whoever's playing the Tigers. Yeah. And then they played brilliant, and I went away from that, and they started getting towed up. So, yeah, look, it's been a little bit tough. Probably the biggest thing is I haven't stayed consistent with my captain. Yeah. If I look at the 54 average, imagine if you just pick a player every week that at the end of the season they average 69, 70, 75. You look at Damien Cook, he's averaged 78. Imagine if you just captain Damien Cook every week. You get to 30 or 40, not a worry.
You're probably in the top 100 regardless of the other 16.
All of a sudden you've got an extra sort of 6, 7, 800 points and you're up there. So I think we get a little bit carried away with who we're sort of putting as captain. Yeah. But yeah,
and I think
a little bit.
Sometimes you might do it on a whim. You might think I've got to pull something out here and make those hasty sort of decisions later, or switch it just before kick-off when you were going to go with this. But
they're the ones that hurt.
Those woulda, coulda, shouldas really hurt, especially when you change someone that went off or someone gets injured that you put it on. But that is the epitome of Supercoach, mate. That's the you can have your salty tears over there.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not going to be wiping them up for you, mate. That's the game we play.
That's it. Let's move on to the BJ and GameDay League, mate. Let's cover it for a few of the boys. Yeah. Bit of an average week from all of us last week. I think only a couple of lads scored over 1,000. We dropped down to 166 in the league ranking. Wayne with Hells Greenies is still leading the way. He's ranked 750 overall, so well done, buddy. Still in that top 1,000 to get yourself a key ring. Lockie at Hope's Hopes. He's probably been the big move in the last 2 weeks. I think he's jumped up from about 5th to 2nd. So he's done really well. We are currently running, you're currently running 5th, and I'm currently running 7th. So with you running 5th, that means we're paying 4 blokes $20 each, grand total of $80 to go out of our own pockets, because you've beat the so-called experts. Just thought we'd shout out to the guys. Obviously 6 weeks left to go. The email, we want you to send through an email just with your details so that we get in touch with you when the time comes, if we don't overtake you before then. But send an email to bjongameday@gmail.com. That way we can get in touch with you as soon as the season's over, and any coin we do have to pay out, or this little hat we've got to send out, we can organise that as quickly as possible. Yeah, so I guess for that we're just trying to make sure that we're getting the right guys. If we do have to pay anyone, we want to make sure we're paying the right guys. So yeah, send us an email, guys that are in the league. If even if it's everyone, I'd go out and say a couple of the boys are probably... Marty, you probably don't have to send your email. Mate, you're lagging just that little bit. But yeah, just do that. Just a bit of that security for us. We don't want to be transferring the wrong money to people and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, obviously it's been a huge year so far. We're loving this BJ and GameDay, and I think a lot of people out there are as well. Next year we're going to do our best to keep this going. We'll probably increase the league from maybe 10 to 20. We'll risk a bit more cash, and hopefully we can improve. But we'd like to invite everyone who's in this year to come back as well. But between now and then, we've got another 6 or 7 weeks to go.
Yeah, mate.
Hopefully we can come home with a wet sail and get over the top of yours.
Yeah.
But anything else to add, mate?
Not much, mate. It's been an interesting year. I think there's still a third of the year to go.
Yeah.
So
it feels long. It feels long.
It's still a little
All
while
the
to
shit
go.
scores are coming in now and we're sort of over it. But
may the trade gods be kind.
yes, I can't trade much. I didn't trade last week. No trades.
May your pods be fruitful.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, all the best.
Cheers, guys. Catch you all next week.